The demise of Wardell Stephen Curry was greatly exaggerated. Let's talk about it. Steph is coming off literally the worst game of his career, scoring 2 points on 0 of 7 shooting against Memphis. The Steph slander was flying across social media, so the chef had to remind y'all who he is. He dropped an easy 31-10 on the T-Wolves' heads and hit dagger after dagger to close his game out, coming off that nightmare performance against Memphis, which was the first time in his NBA career that he played more than 10 minutes and didn't make a field goal. The Steph is washed allegations were circling after the Memphis game. Look, man, I get it. Steph had the worst game of his career, and he's 36 years old. The natural conclusion for most people is that he's washed. And my pushback to that is, how could you be washed when you're still a top 10 player? Now, is Steph Curry in his prime still? No, he's obviously not, but he's still a damn good player. And there's no way you can name 10 players better than him right now. I just don't think you can consider a top 10 player washed. I think more than anything, this knee tendonitis he's dealing with is affecting his play more than his age. Now, is the knee tendonitis a byproduct of his age? You could say that. Even Warriors reporter Monty Poole believes Steph's knee tendonitis is bothering him more than he lets on. But anyways, man, getting back to this game. The Warriors held the Timberwolves to a 15-point first quarter. They then went on to hold Minnesota scoreless for the first 6.5 minutes of the second quarter. The Wolves didn't score in the second quarter until about 5.5 minutes left on the clock. The Warriors led by as much as 21 points in the second quarter, until about halfway through the third quarter when the lead was evaporated. I think the funniest thing about the Warriors-Wolves matchup is that Naz Reid literally turns into Kevin Durant when he plays the Warriors. It's comedy, bro. But yeah, man, this was a great bounce back win for the Dubs. Now let's talk about Kuminga. With no Draymond in this game with a sore ankle, JK still didn't get the start, with Kerr opting for Anderson instead. Here's Steve Kerr's reasoning for going with slow-mo over JK in the starting lineup.
Is the Kuminga starting the game at power forward? Is that experiment over?
Not necessarily. I mean, you just don't know how circumstances are going to play out. I felt really good about Kyle starting tonight with Trace, with Dennis. It just seemed like a better lineup combination. JK played well off the bench. But you don't know how these things are going to shake out.
We're going into year 4 with Kuminga, and it seems like the Warriors still don't have a plan for him, and no sense of direction in terms of how to deploy him. Now look, it's hard to be nitpicky after a win, but you would think Kuminga would be the no-brainer Draymond replacement in the starting lineup whenever Draymond's out, but it looks like that's not the case. Let's check out this interesting post-game soundbite from Kerr.
You know, I love the possession where Steph got off the ball and we went swing. You know, I think he threw it to either Trace or Gary in the pocket, swing to Wiggs swings it to Dennis, it comes back to Steph. That's the game right there. And that's what we're trying to impart on our young players. We have Steph Curry on our team, so pass the ball, move the ball. And if Steph gets off it early because he's gained an advantage, now the defense is scrambling. And this is how we've played for 10 years, and it's important for our young players to understand. We don't need contested 17-footers with 12 on the shot clock, right? That's a bad shot. And I talked to our guys about that during several timeouts. It's something we have to recognize and get better with it. When you have Steph Curry on the team, you pass the ball. Because you pass it 2 or 3 times, the defense is scrambling, all hell breaks loose. So it's a choice. We can either do that and win games, or we can shoot, a whole bunch of 15-foot contested shots in the middle of the shot clock and be a lousy NBA team. It's up to us, and we are hammering that point home with our team. Thank you.
In my opinion, Kerr's comments were definitely directed at JK. Kerr's never really been a fan of mid-range shots. Unless you're Steph, KD, Klay Thompson, Sean Livingston, or Chris Paul, he ain't really going for it. Now, he has given Kuminga more of a leash with his mid-range than I expected. But so far this season, Kuminga hasn't been effective with his mid-range shot. Not as much as last year or even the year before, albeit all in a small sample size. But now that it's not going in at a semi-decent clip, Kerr ain't trying to see that, especially not from young players. Like, you gotta be an established vet for Kerr to give you that green light. So yeah, Kerr's main message to the young guys, look, you're playing with Steph Curry, just pass the ball. Let Steph create the advantage, get the defense shifting, the ball's gonna rotate around and get back to you. And now you're attacking a rotating defense off balance with an advantage, where you, Kuminga, as a play finisher, can now capitalize. Now look, I get where Steve Kerr is coming from, in terms of the young guys passing the ball more to Steph Curry, and letting the offense open up from there. But just speaking on the Warriors' offensive system in general, I hate to say it, but the motion offense is becoming stale and predictable. There's no creativity at all. Just the same motion offense we've seen from the Warriors for the past 11 years, with 0 iterations. It was glaringly evident against Memphis last game. The Grizzlies seemingly knew every set, every play, every action the Warriors ran. The Grizzlies defenders were jumping every passing route, bro. They knew everything that was coming. They face guarded Steph Curry and dared the other 4 Warriors on the court to beat them 4-on-4, which they couldn't. To me, it seems like Kerr threw out all the Terry Stotts implemented offense they were running in the beginning of the season. There was a noticeable amount of creativity to the offense in preseason and the beginning of the season. Now it's gone. Steve Kerr's a stubborn dude, man. In terms of straying away from his game plan, it ain't happening. He likes to do things his way, even when it's clearly not working. And look, it's great to have a system that you trust and believe in. It has a history of success. And just because something worked in the past doesn't mean it's always gonna work. And the offense ain't really working right now. Yes, this was a nice win against Minnesota, but I'm talking about the offense in general over the past few weeks. The league has seen enough of Kerr's motion offense over the years, where now it's at a point where it's too predictable. It's not an offense built around 27-year-old Steph anymore. It's an offense built around 37-year-old Steph. At his age, Steph's not at the absolute peak of his powers anymore, and that's okay to admit. Now, I'm not saying the Warriors should scrap their entire motion offense, because it does serve a purpose benefiting Steph Curry. But all I'm saying is this, Steve, you have to adjust in accordance to your personnel. Bringing this conversation full circle back to JK, he might be their second best scorer. And if the Warriors don't plan on bringing in another star, they need JK to reach his full potential offensively. But you're not going to maximize JK and get the best out of him playing in this system. Kerr needs to bring back some of the creative stuff they were running at the beginning of the season. It will also be helpful to simplify the Warriors offense into a more traditional pick and roll attack to accommodate Kuminga's downhill scoring ability, especially now that you brought in Dennis Schröder, who's a pick and roll point guard. Speaking of Dennis, in his first 2 games as a Warrior, he scored 14 points on 5 of 20 shooting from the field, 0 for 8 from 3, with 8 assists and 7 turnovers. Obviously, not great in terms of the box score impact. I mean, he's looked and played like a player that just got traded to a new team. Schröder's trying to find his footing offensively, picking his spots, getting used to his new teammates, their tendencies. He's trying to build that team chemistry. He's not going to just come in guns blazing and be super aggressive. He's trying to feel his way through the game. He's also trying to adjust to the Warriors' motion offense, which by itself is at least a few weeks of an adjustment period. The Warriors also lack front court spacing, which makes it hard for Dennis to be at his best getting to the rim. When you think about it, who are Dennis's pick and roll partners? Kevon Looney, Draymond Green, Kyle Anderson, and TJD. Out of those 4, I would consider all of them below average finishers and below average shooters. And 3 out of 4 of them are scared to shoot. Now, TJD has the tools to be a good P&R finisher rolling to the rim. And if he plays like he did this game against Minnesota, I would be even more excited about the pairing. But TJD's finishing has been inconsistent this season. The Warriors could really use an offensive-minded scoring big to open up the pick-and-roll game for Schröder and also maximize Kuminga's game playing next to a stretch 5 that can pull the opposing team's big out of the paint. Nikola Vucevic. My bad. Where was I? But seriously, could you imagine Vucevic at center? With Dennis Schröder running the pick and roll, you're pairing Dennis in that first step with a big man that's shooting 45% from 3 this season, who's also a good finisher at the rim and has a post game. But overall, I'm not worried about Dennis in the long term. He just needs more time getting familiar with his teammates. Here's what Steve Kerr had to say about Dennis's game.
That felt like our team. And I think Dennis, you could see Dennis's impact tonight on the game, but also what he's going to mean to our team. His leadership, the way he was pulling guys aside during the timeout to talk to them, encouraging them, even admonishing them when they needed to be admonished. So we need Dennis's leadership, but his ball handling, the way he takes pressure off of Steph, that I think that allowed Steph to stay fresh and close the game out the way he did. So
circling back to TJD, he played an amazing game. He was aggressive and played with force. Steph did what Steph does, but TJD was a player of the game for me. At 6'9", matched up against 7'1" Rudy Gobert, he played big and he held his own. This is the type of physicality and defensive presence that the Warriors need from TJD every night. Moving on to pods, he scored 21 points of 9 of 13 shooting against Memphis in that blowout. And even though it was seemingly meaningless garbage time scoring, for pods, it was important to see the ball go in, build some confidence, and build momentum. And he seems to have carried that momentum into this Minnesota game. By the way, y'all remember that Kerr soundbite I played earlier? Well, here's Pod's response to Steve Kerr.
Steve ended his press conference by talking about how some of the young players on the team are still learning how to play with Steph. Some shots early in the shot clock are not good shots. We need to pass the ball. And that's what you do when you have Steph Curry on your team, that kind of thing. When you hear that message, what do you think?
Man, I don't really think. I just play. When I'm out there, if I'm open, I'll shoot it. If not, I make a play. I don't really look too much into, I know we have Steph Curry on the court, and if he's open, I'm going to throw the ball to him. But yeah, I don't really look in too deep into those messages.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this response from Pods. Even if you disagree with what the coach is saying, ain't nobody trying to hear that you don't pay attention to the message your coach is trying to instill in you. You're a second-year player that's struggling, bro. Come on, man. That's a bad look on Pods. He should have gave a humble, generic response. So let's continue to monitor that situation between Kerr and Pods. But other than that, Pods has managed to string together 2 consecutive good games. And the Warriors bringing in Dennis Schröder as another primary ball handler, which has allowed Pods to move off ball and be more of a secondary creator, seems to be a huge benefit to his play. He has less responsibility with on-ball reps. Here's what Steph Curry had to say about the addition of Dennis Schröder and what it does for Pods.
He gives us such a reliable ball handler. I thought it put BP in a much better position to not have to have the majority of the ball handling responsibilities, but do everything else he does great on the court. Defensively, he hit a big 3 at the end of the first half. The tip in the fourth quarter was unbelievable. He was just kind of all over the place, and that's the advantage of having him in a different role as next to another ball handler. So
hopefully Pods can continue this upward trajectory Monday against Indiana. But anyways, that's all I got for y'all. But before I go, I want to give a shout out to J1, Body by Corpus, and Nelson for recognizing this legendary Bay Area beat. For those of y'all who don't know, the song is called All Over Me by the Jacka, RIP a Bay Area legend. But yeah, man, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, join my membership for exclusive perks, and follow me on Instagram. I'll holler you on the next one. Peace.